All right, let's head to the very bottom of the world, to a continent that for centuries was nothing more than a myth. Then it became a stage for unimaginable heroism, and now it's a crucial laboratory for our planet's future. Let's dive into the incredible story of Antarctica. For centuries, people pictured a terra australis incognita, an unknown southern land. They imagined it as this lush green paradise, a place that had to exist just to balance out the continents in the north. But the reality? Well, it was this, a vast, white, frozen desert. So how on earth did we get from that wild fantasy to the cold, hard facts? Okay, so our journey starts with that big shift, from ancient speculation to the very first freezing encounters with the continent itself.
You know, the idea of Antarctica is actually thousands of years old. You see, the ancient Greeks were obsessed with symmetry. They truly believed there had to be a massive southern landmass to balance out all the continents they knew about up in the north. It wasn't based on a single piece of evidence, mind you, but purely on this philosophical need for harmony.
And this myth, it stuck around for centuries. But then in 1773, along comes Captain Cook. He sails south of the Antarctic Circle and finds nothing but ice, completely shattering that dream of a southern paradise. It actually wasn't until 1820 that explorers finally, officially, laid eyes on the mainland. Then, in 1841, James Clark Ross pushed even further, discovering that colossal ice shelf and the active volcano that are now named after him. The Phantom Continent was finally, slowly, becoming real.
And that discovery? Well, it kicked off one of the most dramatic, most intense chapters in exploration history, the Heroic Age. Once everyone knew Antarctica was real, the race was on to conquer it.
And when I say intense, I mean it. This was no simple journey. These explorers were facing conditions that are just almost impossible to comprehend. We're talking temperatures plummeting to minus 70 degrees Celsius. Just try to wrap your head around that kind of cold.
And the sheer scale of it, wow. A round trip to the South Pole from the coast? That's nearly 3,000 kilometers on foot, all while battling insane blizzards, hidden crevasses, and that just soul-crushing, relentless cold. This all came to a head in the legendary race to the South Pole. You had Norway's Roald Amundsen versus Britain's Robert Falcon Scott. And their different approaches, it's just a brilliant case study. Amundsen was all about speed and efficiency. He used sled dogs, a genius move he learned from the Inuit. Scott, on the other hand, well, he brought ponies, which just couldn't handle the extreme cold. And ultimately, his team ended up man-hauling the sleds themselves, all while trying to do scientific research. The result? Amundsen got to the pole first and made it back safely. Scott's team arrived a month later, only to find the Norwegian flag already there, and tragically, he and his entire party perished on the brutal journey back. His final diary entry, it's just heartbreaking. It really captures both the incredible spirit and the absolute tragedy of that era. It's a powerful reminder of the human cost of that quest for glory, and it marks a somber end to the heroic age.
But, after this age of heroes and bitter national rivalries, something totally different happened. The whole reason for being in Antarctica was about to change forever. It was a huge shift from conquest to cooperation.
And this is what it led to. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959. Now, you have to remember, this was signed at the absolute peak of the Cold War. It's incredible. This one document set the entire continent aside for peace and for science. It literally froze all territorial claims and completely banned any military activity. All of a sudden, Antarctica belonged to no one, and yet to everyone. This treaty was a total game-changer. It transformed the continent. Antarctica became the planet's biggest, most untouched natural laboratory, a place where countries that were rivals everywhere else could actually work together to tackle some of the biggest questions facing all of humanity. So how do scientists unlock Antarctica's secrets? It's pretty amazing, actually. They drill way, way down into the ice sheet and pull up these long cylinders of ice called ice cores. And trapped inside are these teeny tiny bubbles of ancient air. By analyzing the gases in those bubbles, like CO2, they can literally read Earth's climate history going back hundreds of thousands of years. It gives us this crucial roadmap to understand the changes happening right now.
And that brings us right up to today, because the story of Antarctica isn't just about history books. Its fate is directly, and I mean directly, tied to our own future.
So why should you care about a frozen continent at the bottom of the world?
Well, for starters, it holds something like 60% of all the world's fresh water. That massive ice sheet acts like a giant mirror for the sun, reflecting heat back into space and regulating our global temperature. Plus, the super cold water around it drives the huge ocean currents that create weather patterns all over the globe.
But this pristine, crucial laboratory is facing brand new pressures. Just take a look at the boom in tourism. What used to be a place for only a few thousand visitors a year now sees over 70,000. That's a massive increase in the human footprint on a super fragile ecosystem. And tourism is really just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The main threats, the really big ones, are all tied to global climate change. You see, when that ice melts faster in Antarctica, it doesn't just stay there. It directly causes global sea levels to rise, which threatens coastal cities everywhere. It messes with the very foundation of the ocean's food web and fundamentally changes how our planet works. What happens in Antarctica definitely doesn't stay in Antarctica.
So, we end right here with this question. We've gone on this incredible journey from a mythical paradise to a real-life scientific marvel. But its future, well, that's still being written. Will it remain a stable regulator for our planet? Or will it become a tipping point for massive global change? That story, really, depends on all of us.